And folks, just let me know if you can see me with a slide screen behind me. Give me a thumbs up. Fantastic. Okay, so this is a bit of a interval in the 52-week MBA, which we're running here. The part one is 90 days to seven figures. We've gone through your unique selling proposition, your point of difference, your product, and a little bit on pricing and some other stuff already. Coming up, we're going to be talking a lot about marketing. So this sort of feeds into that really well. We're going to try and get your marketing, or the way you approach your marketing, set up so this is the way you beat your competition. Then we're going to talk about some financial secret weapons, and then we'll look at some profit growth strategies towards the end of the year. But literally what you're getting is a brain dump of the sort of business basics that I share with and teach with my clients, so that you can use this stuff and go and apply it in your own business. Usually it's like drinking from a fire hose. I will try and go slower today, but again, there will be, as always, a recording of this up on the BCW website. And again, as always, there's no rainbows, there's no unicorns. The tips here, not all of them will apply to you, but there will be at least some tips, I guarantee, probably no fewer than 5, that you guys can grab hold of and start applying to your thinking or the way you execute your marketing. And increasingly, please have some questions at the end. Often it feels like Jay or I do these sorts of things and we get to the end and there's no questions. It'd be lovely to have a conversation about some of the stuff that comes here. There are a couple of visitors in the room, so very quickly, who am I to be talking about all this without reading all the little boxes there? Essentially, I've been running my own business coaching consultancy for the last 12 years. I've helped between 170 and 180 business owners and executives achieve greater results. Before that, I had 30 plus years as a C-suite executive in 12 different industries in Southeast Asia and here in Australia. Before that, I was a guest lecturer at University on Business. And before that, I was a high school teacher. So I've been around the block a few times. As always, time is short because I want to make sure you guys have plenty of time to network after this education and even do your shameless shout outs at the end. So we'll dive straight in. Tip number 1 is you should be collecting and using data to base your decisions on. You can use things like Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook Manager, LinkedIn Campaign Manager, those sorts of things. But the bottom line is lots of people are putting advertising out there and marketing out there, and they're not actually seeing it's effective. If you put an ad out, if you put an email out there, how many people open it? If you do a LinkedIn post, how many people comment on it? You need to be looking at the data to see what works. And if you happen to have one of those wonderful posts that goes viral on you and there's hundreds of people sharing and doing it, then break it down and see what you can do to replicate that and do it again. But again, don't just assume people are going to be there. Just do some research and use it. I have a friend who believes that all people are stupid. It's just a matter of degree. I tend to agree with them more often than not these days than I used to. But the thing is, you should understand is people are not as smart as you think. And whatever business you're in, you will be some form of expert, which means you will have a degree of your own language. You will have a greater degree of unconscious understanding of the things that you do or your business does than the average person. So the idea is whatever you do, whatever you're providing, be it a service or product to people, is do what I call a kindergarten sheet. Own what you do, but dumb it down. Make sure that it is written so a 7-year-old could understand it. This is the biggest issue I see. Unless you're writing for a scholastic journal or doing a white paper for university or something like that, your marketing language should be such that a 7-year-old could understand it. Your sentences should be short. Your paragraphs should contain only one thought, and they shouldn't run on too much one into the other. But if you take that in mind, that you are going to be writing for a primary school audience, then that will certainly help your marketing cut through a lot more. Getting new clients is the lifeblood of any business, but the thing that keeps the heart pumping is keeping your existing clients as much as possible. Every business will have a churn factor. If you're running, in average, most businesses, they say that it's somewhere between 12 and 15% is an acceptable churn. I don't necessarily agree with that. But the key thing is, yes, you've got to keep getting new clients, but you've got to make sure that you're loving and nurturing the people that have already spent money and time with you. It's much easier to sell something else to someone who's already bought from you than it is to get a new client. So yes, the lifeblood, get new clients, but the heart is keeping your existing clients and making sure they love you. Number 4, storytelling. There's a few books on this out there, storytelling as a means of market, and it's true. Human beings, we are predisposed to love stories. Before writing was invented, we had what was called an oral tradition, where languages and learnings were passed down through the telling of stories. And we still do stories now, Grimm's fairy tales and all that sort of stuff has survived centuries. People love a story. If you're not familiar with it, look up Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. It is the most common used sort of format, where we have our hero, he faces some adversity, he improves himself, he fights the bad guy, and he comes out on top. That's roughly the hero's journey. But if you're able to take your story, this is one reason why so often in long form marketing, you see the story, I was unhappy and this was happening and the world fell in on me and my dog died and my wife left me, but I got off my knees and I did this and now I found this magic stuff which will help you do things. There's lots of bad stuff out there using the hero's journey, but the bottom line is people use things that work. Stories work. If you've got a story, if your product or service solves a problem, particularly if it's a problem you've found or faced in your life, then tell the story of it. Share the story of it. Let people know. If I want to switch off the logical part of your brain, I only have to say a couple of simple words. Okay, let me tell you a story. It's as simple as that. Let me tell you a story, and then you tell a story, and people start listening emotionally and they stop listening logically. Very, very simple. So if you're not using storytelling in your marketing, you need to think about how you can and why you should. Number 5, don't hate your competitors, study them. I was talking at a Chamber of Commerce thing last week, and a couple of people in the room were pretty antagonistic about competitors and things like that. And okay, bottom line is not everyone is going to necessarily act with integrity and all those sorts of things. But if you've got competitors, you should study what they do, see what's working, see what's not working, and decide not to do that. But if stuff they're doing is working, then you should A&A it, which means adopt it and adapt it for your business. I'm not saying rip it off, and certainly don't copy it, but look at what they're doing that's successful and figure out how you can apply what they're doing to your business. Right? Competitors are a great way to improve what you do in your business, whether it's the negative learning of, oh my God, I'd never do what they've done there, or the positive learning like, wow, that was really clever. I wonder how I can use that. You must use your competitors as a means of making your business better. And there's a big thing about benchmarking that a lot of people will teach you. Benchmarking is great because it tells you pretty much the average in your industry. The thing is, there's the key word, it's the average. You want to reach a benchmark if your business is in trouble, but as soon as possible, you want to get above the benchmark because that means you're no longer average in your industry. You're above average and you should be there as much as possible. Understand that staying relevant is one of the biggest challenges all of us have in our businesses. By staying relevant, it means understanding that what worked today to get sales or to make customers happy or to solve a problem may not work tomorrow. Imagine you're a copywriter before Claude and ChatGPT came along. You could actually charge lots of money and lots of people would knock down your door. Now, lots of people probably mistakenly think they don't need copywriters, so they're using Claude and they're using ChatGPT. But in order to stay relevant, if you're a copywriter, you have to prove to people the fallacies or the mistakes that AI makes so you can stay there. But please, just because something worked yesterday or last week, don't keep doing it. Lots of businesses go out backwards because they keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, because they don't analyze the data, which was tip number 1, and they don't see where their business is actually, or their execution of marketing is returning smaller gains to them. They're making less revenue, but they keep doing the same thing. What's that Einstein quote? The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Too many businesses with their marketing get locked into that. Something worked very well in 1984, and they're still doing it in 2024, and they shouldn't be. Always test, but make sure you're staying relevant. And this is a sad truth. You can have the best product in the world, but you know what? someone probably sells more of a similar product than you do. It doesn't have to be the best product. What wins hearts and minds is the best marketing, and that's usually delivered by the best story. But even if you've got the best product in the world, if your marketing is no good, guess what? You're not going to sell many. So marketing is the engine room of your business. You need to understand that, and certainly build a great product, and for heaven's sake, over deliver on your promises in terms of what the outcome is that someone gets from you. But understand that even if you've got the best product in the world, if your marketing is not up to snuff, then your business won't be. People quite simply buy with their emotions. They justify with logic. And yet all the time I see people pushing the logical side of things. This car comes in 12 different colors. It's got 6 seats in it. It does 120 kilometers per charge. All that is logical stuff that people use to justify a purchase. But people buy on the emotion. They buy on the idea of sitting in a bright red Corvette cabriolet with the roof down and screaming along the Great Ocean Road with AC/DC pumping out of the speakers, smelling the salt air and seeing the seagulls. That's what sells cars, not the fact that it does so many kilometers per litre of petrol. And it's the same with everything. People buy. People simply buy because they are buying how they imagine they will feel when they use your product or service. That's what they're buying. And then they need to justify that. It's an emotional thing. And quite frankly, if you're not using pain relief as the basis of your marketing, you have a problem. People have 2 drives: the desire to seek pleasure, the desire to avoid pain. And the most powerful one is the desire to avoid pain. So for heaven's sake, your marketing should be selling people pain relief, not vitamins. Think about it. Tip number 9. No one actually cares about your product. Like I was saying, they care about how it will help them or how it will make them feel. This is the thing that people are thinking about most often. What pain are you going to take away from me, or how am I going to feel when I use your product or service? Don't worry about the QR code. There's one at the end if you want to book a meeting and have a chat. Number 10, meet demand, but don't try and create it. Again, I see people have got great ideas and they go and they try and create demand. By trying to create demand means you're trying to open up a new market or an unbuilt market. Really, all of us should be operating in markets which have competition, which means there is demand. We should identify demand and try and meet it, rather than try and necessarily go and shoehorn open a brand new market. For those of us in the call, things we do and what everyone was saying, no one here should be trying to create demand. Everyone here should be assessing the demand in their marketplace and trying to meet it in a way that makes them stand out from their competitors. USPs and points of difference, which we've talked about in previous weeks. It's a sad truth, but it's true. It doesn't matter if you sell beers, soft drinks, cornflakes or whatever. Not everyone's your customer. Too many people market like everyone is their customer. Don't. Niching is important. Sub-niching is even better for most people selling products or services. But the biggest mistake you can make with your marketing is write it like it's going to appeal to everyone. It's better almost to be contrarian and pick an enemy. Right. There is a guy in in the UK called Jody Rainsford, who runs Bad Boy Running. Bad Boy Running is a running club, but they have a fairly blue sense of humor, which they put on their t-shirts and things. But they decided that Park Run was going to be their enemy. So they poked fun at Park Run while they were getting started. Not that they didn't like Park Run. They actually got on very well with people who did Park Run, just they wanted a clear point of difference. The key thing was they understood very early on their customers weren't everyone who went for a recreational run or went running every week. They wanted people who went for a run and wanted to have a beer at the end of it. That was their market, and that's how they marketed too. Remember, don't sell products. Products are nothing more than the conveyance, the device, or the means to delivering an outcome. That's what people are buying. They're buying an outcome, a transformation, an improvement in their circumstance or what's going on in their life. Too many people, again, get caught up in selling the products, which means you're selling the features rather than the benefits or emotionally. This is a big one. People have short attention spans, right? Maybe better than a goldfish, but maybe not, depending what research you read. You have to stand out. So the work we did a couple of weeks ago on unique selling propositions and having a viable point of difference, having a roadmap that people can follow for your product and service that takes them from being unhappy to happy. These things are absolutely vital because they help you stand out. This ties in with your competitor research. What are your competitors not doing that you can do that you can tell people about? You can be very cheeky. You can actually say you're the world's best vegetable slicer, and then it's on everyone else to try and disprove that. So you can actually take ownership of something outrageous like that if you want to stand out. Key thing is people get hit with, I forget what the current number is, 40,000 commercials a day, something ridiculous like that. To stand out, you have to be a little bit contrarian, or you have to be something that's going to stop the scroll. So if you're not doing that with your marketing, then you've got an issue. And of course, the best marketing doesn't always feel like marketing. I can't quite read the brand of that water there, but I did read a report saying after that photo that their sales went up a couple of 100%. They weren't marketing. They didn't do it deliberately. Again, tell a story, engage people, leave some pain, sell a pain relief tablet, not vitamins. A small starving market is more profitable than a huge overfed one. There is a book called Feed a Starving Crowd, and that's exactly what you do. If your product or service is able to find a niche or a sub-niche where people are absolutely crying out for some form of pain relief and you can service it, that's going to be more profitable for you because you can charge higher prices. And you'll have more return business because you're servicing a need that's not being met, than trying to play the everyone card and try and be involved with everyone else. Gary Vaynerchuk wrote a book called, I think it was Jab, 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 Right Cross, something like that, years ago on social media. It's still probably one of the best textbooks on social media use and marketing in general. If you haven't read it, you should. And his whole thing is that if you're running a seven email sequence, you should give for 6 of those emails, give people good knowledge, give them good information, give them free check, give them whatever. And then number 7, ask them for something simple. It might be ask them to like a post. It might be asking them for an email. It might be asking them to download something. But the whole idea is that givers gain, which is an old BNI thing. But if you follow Robert Cialdini's laws of persuasion, one of the things is reciprocity. If you give people things, it inherently makes people feel like they have to give you something back. So even though that sounds a little bit manipulative, if you give good value to people and you keep giving, eventually you're going to get it back. So give a few times to establish the fact you know what you're about and be useful, and then ask people to do something for you. Before learning tricks and hacks, understand the basics. I'm not going to embarrass people, but there was a time last year when I was doing a presentation on budgets, and I asked how many people in the room of 20 had a budget, and 2 hands went up. It was a bit dismaying in a room full of business owners. You have to understand the fundamentals. You have to understand the need for a budget, the need to have your BAS in on time. I ran a thing the other week there on cash flow forecasts, and no one in the room pretty much had a cash flow forecast, which is a basic tool. The fundamentals are the basis. They're the foundation of your business that you build everything else on. If your fundamentals and foundation are not strong, your business will eventually fall over and collapse. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if you've got a great product and you sell 1 million units. If the fundamentals aren't there to prop it up and keep it going and support it, it will fall. You have to be aware of SBOSS, shiny, bright object syndrome, right? Everyone seems to think that AI can do everything they do. Yes, me too, Jay, don't worry. I fall prey to it very often, but try and resist it. Get the fundamentals in place. Make sure that you do have a budget, that you understand the lifetime value of your customers, that you understand your average transaction value, that you understand how many products or services you sell and how much each product or service actually contributes to your overall profit and revenue. And maybe you've got too many products or services, or maybe you need more. But these are basic things that I find many business owners just don't think about. It's important. Number 18, market saturation doesn't exist if your product is newer, faster, better, or cheaper. This is what I meant about not creating demand, but by being differentiated, by standing out. It is better by far to go into a crowded marketplace and differentiate yourself. than to try and create a new marketplace. It's simple as that. And if you are looking at your competitors and you are pulling apart what they do, you should be able to find what Michael Porter called loose bricks. The loose brick strategy is the wall they've got in the marketplace, find the bricks that are loose, pull them out and replace them with something of your own. So if you can enter into a marketplace with whether it's a physical product or a service or a piece of software that is newer or faster or better or cheaper, then you have a point of difference and a unique selling proposition that you can use to batter down the walls and start earning some more money. So look, there's 18 tips for you, largely marketing tips. Okay, whichever ones were right to you, I hope you wrote down. If not, please go and watch the replay and write them down. But the key thing is there should be at least one thing in what I spoke about there that you could apply to your business, and you should. Please don't stick your head in the sand. I know it's horrible when people talk words like budget and all that sort of stuff, but you need to get the fundamentals done. Andrew Marvell was a poet back in I think it was the 17th century, romantic poet, but here's one of my favorite quotes from him. But at my back, I always hear time's a winged chariot hurrying near. Now, our biggest mistake is we think we've got time. The problem is actually do have time to do something. We just can't do everything. If you'd like a hand or you'd like to explore some of those tips further, then help is definitely available. All you need to do is to come to my calendar and let's have a non-sales 30-minute chat, see if I can help you out. And that's the end of the presentation. So have you got any questions for me? Janine, I see your hands up.